Alright, so it's time to do a little carb rejetting on the bobber because I'm using these air intakes right here. And so the first setup I did, I just used the stock jets. So this bike comes stock with a 41 on the pilot and a 122 on the main. And so I could get the bike to run kind of like stock if I blocked off part of this air filter. And so I restricted the air back since this is much more open than the stock setup. And so I put some little restrictor plates inside of it, and I got it pulled back to where it would run pretty good, kind of ran like a stock bike. And so then I moved the restrictor plates around a little bit, and I brought the jets up to a 45 on the pilot and a 128 on the main. And I could get a lot of bottom end power, but it would level out once I'd hit about 5,000 RPMs or so. So I just couldn't get much more pull after that. So I figured with that much restriction on it and then running the bigger jets, I was probably getting rich up on top. And so now I've decided just to finalize this. I kind of like that hard pull that it does when it's more open, got a little more fuel. And I kind of like how the stock bike would run up, you know, and it's real steady and it throttles down real good. So I think we're going to try to find a happy medium. And what I'm going to do is what I have right here. And just a note on these pod type, you have to block off the air on the front, because as you're going down the road, when it starts forcing air, it actually ram air into them and it leans you out quite a bit. So what I got is a plate on the outside that's blocking the flow off. And then right here is an opening that allows the air to come in from behind, and it'll pull into the carburetor. So I still end up with a good laminar airflow, but I'm not driving air into it. So we'll get set up, and we're going to change out these stock ones. I went and had to put the stock ones back in, so now we're going to open it back up. And we'll go for a ride right now so you can kind of see what it does with pods on the sides that aren't blocked off and then running stock jets. And so we'll go for a little ride, and you'll see that it sputters when it starts picking up in the RPM. So now it's leaning out. All right, so we could see from our test run that when we hit, I guess it was about 45 miles per hour in second gear. So that's probably around 5,000 RPMs with the stock jets, but with the intakes opened up, we started popping. So that's a pretty good indication that we're leaning out as we get up into the high RPMs. So I think we need to swap these jets and see what we can do. So swapping the jets isn't too bad. You actually don't have to take the carburetors off. So it makes it pretty simple to test a few jets. So what we got to do is get to the carburetors. So first we'll take our intakes off. So we get them out of the way. We'll do the same for the other side. But to get this carburetor off, you have to actually take the oil line off. So not a big deal, and 1,000 times easier than taking the carburetors themselves off. So we'll pop that oil line loose and get him out of the way. The other one you don't have to take off, you just have to loosen it up. So we'll go ahead and get that oil line took off on both sides. So over on the other side, the oil line where the two come together, you want to put this back in the hole, because one of those screws could potentially fall down in that oil hole, and that's the last thing you want. And you got a carburetor screw down inside your motor. So just to be safe, once we take the oil line out, we're gonna put that screw back in there. So let's get the oil line off. So now we can take this carburetor off, but I'm gonna go ahead and loosen up the oil line on the other side, and then I can put my bolt back in there. You just have to loosen the back one. You don't have to take it loose. Yeah, there's no chance for getting those screws down in there. All right, so step one of this whole deal is we've got to drain the fuel bowl. So let's get us a little cup. We're going to drain the fuel out. All right, so to get the screws out, and I don't have Allen screws. Some people say to change these out for Allen screws, but I just use the same ones that are in there, but you can get to them. So to get to a couple of them, you're going to need just a Phillips head on a ratchet. But to get to this one way up here in the corner, you got to get a really short ratchet. And so what I used is an 8mm, one of those little ratchet guys, and then just took a piece of aluminum shim stock and circled it around a short Phillips head, and you can reach right up in there and get to that one. So I will take him off first. There we go. So now we got the fuel drained out, so we're ready to take this one loose. So you can reach right up in there and get to it pretty easy. Like I say, 1,000 times easier than taking the carburetors off. We get him loosened up, then you can just take your fingers and reach in there and get him out. All right, so we got him loose, so let's go ahead and loosen up these other ones. And another method, if you just can't get it, you can take your little end piece and put it on a piece of rubber hose. And there we go. So we got the hard one out of there. So now the other ones are pretty easy. There we go. So we're ready to pull it down. So now with that oil line out of the way, it'll drop down for us. You got to be kind of careful that your gasket comes with it, and you don't mess your floats up. So now we got him out of there. So now all we got to do is change our jets out. So since I am running lean, what I think is lean, I'm going to change the main out for sure. So the main is this one, the one away from the boot. So we know we're going to do the main. And I think I'm going to go ahead and change out the pilot, or the idle circuit one. So what you got to have is something really wide so you can get up in there. So this is a impact driver's flat socket tip. And so just get on it with a wrench and carefully make sure it's level in there and pull that jet. All right. Out comes our main. It's got the washer on it. So we're going to trade out this 122 for something bigger. So I'm going to put a 128 in there. A lot of times it pushes that little tube up. So you got to be a little bit careful. All right, so there is my main. So we went from a 122 to a 128. So now for my idle circuit, it's doing pretty good. I mean, I can adjust it out with the air fuel, but I'm a pretty good ways out on the air fuel. So I think what I'm going to do is take this one and up it to the next size up I have, which is a 43. And so normally you do one jet at a time, but the motor's pretty close, and so I want to see which way it's going to go
if I just change them both while I'm at it, I can always take this back off again and do it again. So now I'm going to change out my pilot jet from the 41 to a 43. And since it's not so hard, you don't have to take the carbs off to do this, then I can always put them back if I don't like the results. I can always step down. I don't know, that 128 may be too big for a main, but the only way to know is to try it. And so if I see that now I'm running too rich instead of too lean, then I may have to get something in between those two. So we could try like a 125 or something like that. So there we go. So we got our jets chained up. Now we got to do is slip our bowl back on. And there again, same deal. Got to be careful you don't hit your floats when you put them in. You don't want to bang those floats around. And there we go. So we got one carb jetted. Now we just need to switch around to the other side and do the identical thing. So we're ready to do this side over here. Now here's what I was talking about. As you can see right here, I put the bolt back in there because I don't want those little bitty screws dropping down inside my motor. And so I blocked those off. So let's get this side done over here. This oil line doesn't have to be removed, it just has to be pulled out of the way a little bit so we can get our fingers in there. And there we go. Now we just got to get our oil line put back on and our intakes put on. And we'll put our other side on, and then we are ready for another test drive. All right, so before we get to go on our test ride, we actually have to reset the air fuel for the pilot circuit because we changed the jet. And so what I'm going to do is start it up. It's up on the center stand because you want to check them with it level, get it tuned in level. And so we're going to fire it up, and you'll probably hear the motor loping, and then as I tune in, I'll find the sweet spot on the air fuel, and then we'll be ready to go. There we go. Now we got her set back in. So all you do is just run it in or out until you hear the engine lope down, and then back it back up an 1/8 to 1/4, and we can fine tune that a little bit more once we get going. So now we're all tuned up and we can take it for a ride.
Alright, so there we have it from the little road trip test drive. We ended up a whole lot better. They're really pulling hard now. We got the air opened up and we got the fuel jetted pretty close. I could probably do a little bit better, but we'll run it like that for a while, and then maybe when I get some free time I'll tinker with it some more. But all in all, it's a whole lot better than it was running with the stock jets with those open air intakes. So I think we got her. Well, alrighty. Well, thanks for watching.